What's going on, people? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown, and I'm back here with another video. Now, as always, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Feel free to drop a comment if you like, and I'll happily get back to you. Now, let's do a deep dive into this KSI and Tommy Fury fight that took place last night, man. Now, you guys know me. I'm not really the person to speak on Misfits boxing and the whole YouTube setup and everything else. I'm a hardcore boxing fan, so this sort of thing to me, it's not my bag. It's not what I'm really particularly interested in. But I thought, you know what? Let me just give it a go, have a watch of it, because I haven't sat through and watched the whole card. I've barely seen highlights of a fight. But I thought to myself, let me just take in, see why this is so popular, and watch the main event, and just gather my thoughts and give an honest opinion. Just an honest opinion, so I can see it from my viewpoint rather than being swayed by others online. Now, nothing has changed my opinion with regards to the whole YouTube boxing setup. It's not something that I'm ever going to cover fully on this channel, so I apologize for those that might be new here, but it's not really something that I'm particularly interested in. But let's just talk about the actual event itself, and I will give credit to KSI and the whole Misfits team for what they've done, what they've produced, and how they've managed to create this brand, and seeing how big it's grown. Like, it's huge. Like, they've had the AO Arena in Manchester, one of the better arenas you can have over here in the UK, particularly for boxing. They've hired that out. They sold that out within, what was it, minutes, hours, whatever it was. There was a huge demand for tickets, huge demand for pay-per-views. It was big, you know what I mean? And you have to give credit to the people behind it. So I do that, even though for most boxing fans, like the older heads and the hardcores, are going to look at this and say it's embarrassing and it's a false misrepresentation of the sport. I do tend to lean towards that favor. But then as I've, taken in this YouTube boxing setup, I've realized that, this is just their own thing. It's not to be classified in the same sort of boxing realms as what we're used to. This Misfits YouTube boxing, they're no longer being put on the same shows as, let's say an AJ or whoever. Like, they're not being the undercard of those shows. They've got their own thing going on. And, that's the way it should be. It has everybody from that sort of Misfits YouTube boxing on that undercard. And the real boxing shows, the ones that the hardcores like to tune in, like myself, such as last night, Tim Zhu, Brian Mendoza, that's got its own card. So, yeah, keep those two entities separate, and I think it'll be fine. I think at the beginning, we were worried that maybe this is going to take over boxing and it's going to affect some of the shows that will happen. And we've seen this year that that's not been the case. 2023 has been very good for boxing as a whole. We've seen a lot of major fights, so we can't say that the YouTube boxer has got in the way of that. What we can say is that if we want the major fights to happen, they can happen if it's got enough demand by it. Spence and Crawford finally happened this year. We saw Caleb Plant against Benavidez. We've seen Devin Haney against Lomachenko. We've seen the big fights take place this year. We've got Fury and Usyk coming up. So we can't look at the YouTubers and the Misfits and whatever you want to call it and say that that's got an effect. I think that they're their own entity. It's got its own fan base. And another thing as well about that, we originally thought that maybe the rise of this YouTube boxing will bring in new fans to the sport or bring new eyes to the sport, as what many of us would have thought. That's not been the case, and it is what it is. They've got their own thing. They've got tag team boxing. They've got their own crowd. That's what they're into. The people that are into the actual sport, that want to tune into the likes of Shakur Stevenson or Lomachenko or Devin Haney or whoever. We've got our thing. So they're two separate entities. It did not bring new eyes to the sport, because the people that were watching Misfits boxing last night were not going to tune in to watch Tim Zhu on the same evening. So it is what it is. But I think that they should just keep it separate and just move on from there. But let's talk about the actual main event itself, man. KSI and Tommy Fury. I actually had KSI winning this by a point. It was a 6-rounder, and KSI started off pretty fast. Tommy Fury going into this fight, you could tell that he really wanted to hurt KSI. He was deviating from how I thought he would box, which was similar against Jake Paul. He outboxed Jake Paul in that night and won that pretty handedly. Against KSI, though, you could see that he wanted to go in there and hurt him. There was a bit more venom in Tommy Fury this night. And maybe it was due to the build-up. It was a bit of a heated build-up between the two. They had a lot of back and forth to say to each other. But, yeah, Tommy Fury was rushing in, and he lost the first couple of rounds for me. Definitely lost the first round. Second round, I thought he lost that as well. And then he got the point deduction. Now, this point deduction really could have swayed the fight in KSI's favor, in my opinion, and it did for me. Now, after that, he would have been 3 rounds down because he would have had an extra point taken off. So effectively, Tommy Fury, after the second round, would have had to win every other round in that fight to win it. And effectively, that's what happened. He did win every other round in most of the judges' scorecard, and he did win the fight by 1 round. I think it was a majority decision that he got over KSI. Now, I mean, it was an ugly fight, first of all. I mean, it wasn't a particularly good fight to watch. You know, there was a lot of holding, a lot of hugging, and yeah, literally the pattern of the fight was KSI bouncing up and down on his toes, leaping in, the two would hug each other. Tommy Fury might land a flurry here and there while they move off, and then that was it, reset. That was literally how the fight went for 6 rounds. And look, I'm not expecting it to be no Hagler Hearns. You know, this is a novice pro against a YouTuber. So I'm not expecting it to be significantly high quality. But yeah, as a spectacle and due to the hype and build up, I was hoping for a bit more. But it is what it is, man. They gave it their all. And Tommy Fury edged it out. He won the later rounds for sure. Maybe there was a swing round in there that you could have given to KSI, but the later rounds definitely did belong to Tommy Fury, and it was enough for him to win the fight overall. He was very happy with that decision. I think that KSI, you could see he was the more disappointed. He thought that he was going to win it. And yeah, he called it a robbery. Let's talk about that term robbery as well. First of all, those of you that have been here for a while will know that, you know, I classify a robbery, and many others do, as, you know, where a clear-cut decision has gone the other way. So in a 6-round fight, so to speak, let's say yesterday, if KSI won 5 rounds clearly, then and lost it, then that's what you call a robbery. It was a close fight, so that doesn't equate to a robbery for me. If the fight is close, then it doesn't equate to a robbery. It's just down to, you know, your perception. It's very subjective how you score cards, and you know, the judges scored this one for Tommy Fury. So while I did have KSI winning by a point, I wouldn't term it as a robbery. A robbery is where it's a clear-cut decision where the guy has won the round clearly, and he maybe won like 5 out of those 6 and then goes on to lose it. Like, that is what the robbery is. And there has been plenty of them in the sport before, but last night wasn't one of them. You know, Tommy Fury, I think the punch stats in this fight, Tommy Fury might have landed 1 more than KSI, and I think he threw more over the course of the fight. Punch stats are not everything, but in this sort of fight where there wasn't much going on, it probably means a bit more than, you know, it might do in any other fight. So Tommy Fury gets the win. He was talking about crossing back over to, you know, the pros and the real boxing, so to speak. But for me, I think this is his bag. He needs to stay here in the Misfits YouTube setting. He's beaten the 2 biggest stars in that setting now with KSI and Jake Paul. Maybe he could get a rematch with KSI. It's going to be a lot more lucrative and a lot more better for Tommy Fury if he stays in this realm. If he crosses over to actual boxing, you know, and where's he competing at? Cruiserweight? Could you see Tommy Fury going in there with a Jay Opataya or a Lawrence Okoli or Chris Billam-Smith? You can't. I mean, he's nowhere near that level, and he's not going to get to that level, with all due respect. He's probably an area fighter at best, so that's not going to bring in the lucrative money for him. If I was Tommy Fury, you know, you built up a name over there. He's a social media personality anyway. I'd stay over there at the YouTubers, the Misfits Boxing, and fight those guys, man. Make your money and do it that way, because maybe he's a bit embarrassed. I can see that he was a little bit in his interview. He was talking about saying that this isn't him and he wants to make it as a pro. But if we're being realistic, if he really sits down and thinks about it, I think that this is where he needs to stay. This is going to be the most lucrative and better deal for him. But listen, I'm not his advisor. I'm not his manager. I can't tell him what to do. But it's pretty clear to me and those of us that watch that Tommy Fury's level is, you know, I'd say it's this. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way. I'm just saying that for him, like, if I was him, I would stay right here in the Misfits era and, you know, do what you need to do over there. You know what I'm saying? So let me know your thoughts about it anyway, guys, in the comment section below. How did you score the fight, first of all? Did you think KSI won? Did you think it was a robbery, or do you think that Tommy Fury deserved to win? Curious to get your opinions here in the comments. Like I said, this was my first time actually sitting down and watching the Misfits show. Yeah, it was different, obviously. A bit of madness in the Chief support. That was a non-fight, first of all. I heard that the other guy was talking a lot on social media. Then he went in the ring, he laid an egg, literally didn't do anything other than try and get disqualified, which is what he did. So that was a bit of a weird fight to watch. But yeah, overall, listen, this has got its own market. I think the people are really happy with it. I don't think it's going anywhere. So us as hardcore boxing fans are going to have to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? And listen, as long as it doesn't interrupt or do anything to as long as it doesn't mess up anything that I want in the pros and what I want to see and get in the way of the fights happening, then it is what it is, man. I'll just literally turn a blind eye to it, maybe tune into it here and there. But the hardcore boxing scene, that's where I'm at, and that's where I'll be focusing most of my videos on. So let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below, guys. Curious to get your opinions, and I'll catch you on the next one.